Hi, do you often find yourself in those situations where people speak to you, colleagues, or even people on the street, and you're not sure exactly what they've meant? Well, the only way to solve that problem is to paraphrase, to confirm that you've really understood what they mean. This is Susan Broder from Speak Languages and Travel the World, here to help you improve your English with minimum effort and maximum benefit. And yes, paraphrasing is the easiest way to confirm that what a person has said you've understood. In some languages, for example in German, sometimes they'll say the time in a way I'm not quite sure if I've understood, so I'll just express it in other words. This is paraphrasing, and I've realized that most videos speak about paraphrasing in academic contexts. And that's fine, but that's a different kind of paraphrasing. That's paraphrasing information in whole paragraphs that you get from research papers or books. What I'm speaking about is paraphrasing just individual sentences to be sure you've understood what the other person is talking about. So very often you'll need to improvise because you won't even have the sentence to read. You'll actually need to, on the spur of the moment, improvise. And that's really not so easy. You really need to practice a lot. What I was suggesting was a 5-step method to learn to paraphrase individual sentences. Obviously, at the beginning, the best thing is to do it in written form, but subsequently, you should try and paraphrase anything you hear. Even stop a film and try and paraphrase a sentence you've heard on a film, for example. So choose short sentences to paraphrase so that when you really need to use it in real context, you'll be able to do so quite confidently. Here's my 5-step method with quite a detailed explanation and examples of how you can paraphrase individual sentences. Take a look at this document. As a means to improving your English. Paraphrasing in English step by step. Why is paraphrasing a powerful tool to communicate in English? You learn how to accurately and coherently explain something in English without too much effort. This is especially important to you if you want to be sure you have understood something someone has said to you or asked a question for you to answer, such as at a conference. You can reuse the same vocabulary in the sentence you want to paraphrase, or even better, you can use synonyms, learning new vocabulary to use in the right context. This applied learning is much more effective for improving your English since you're learning to use vocabulary and grammar in context, the best and most efficient way to learn a language. So what exactly is paraphrasing? It means saying a phrase, a sentence, in different words. Paraphrase. This technique is very powerful for learners of English because it helps you increase your vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, coherence, and as a consequence, your fluency. What will you learn in this lesson? In this lesson, you'll learn how to paraphrase effectively in 5 simple steps. So let's dive straight in. First of all, read or listen to the sentence carefully. If you're at a conference or if you're with colleagues, of course you can't read, so you have to pay particular attention to the general meaning of the sentence, even if you don't understand every word. Pay attention means to be particularly careful to listen and observe. Then, underline or focus on the content words. So content words give the sentence the meaning, and without them there is no meaning. They give us the information about who, what, where, when, and how. They're always pronounced longer, louder, higher pitched, and clearer than the other words. Content words. A content word is any word that has an individual meaning on its own outside of a sentence. The following word groups are all content words: nouns, main verbs but not the verb to be because it's usually unstressed,
phrasal verbs, adjectives, adverbs, numbers, proper names, and negative auxiliary verbs. Content words contrast with function words, which are usually not stressed. For example, nouns are car, biscuit, tree. Main verbs are eat, go, take. Adjectives are interesting, good, expensive. I'll come back to function words later. So let's see an example sentence. Research has shown that a glass of red wine a day can help your cardiovascular system. If you notice, I'll say the words marked in capital letters and bold louder and clearer because these are the function words. Let me repeat it. Research has shown that a glass of red wine a day can help your cardiovascular system. Now, even if I say it a little bit faster, these words will still be louder and clearer. Research has shown that a glass of red wine a day can help your cardiovascular system. You'll notice that the other words are absolutely unstressed, so if you listen carefully, you'll be able to note the most important words, and even if you haven't understood all the sentence, the most important words will give you an indication of what the subject of the sentence is, the gist of the sentence. The third thing to do is to change the sentence structure. So you can transform the sentence by changing the structure of the sentence, either by rearranging the parts of the sentence or by substituting parts with equivalent structures. In scientific and academic contexts, the active voice is often exchanged for the passive voice because, in particular, the passive voice is used when it shouldn't seem like our own personal opinion. But you can only change verbs with an object into the passive form. Let's look at some specific examples with these substituting parts to help you understand what I mean better. Paraphrasing with sentence transformation. So in order to paraphrase easily, you can practice transforming sentences using the following structures, which always remain the same and can be used vice versa. So there is and there are can become have and has got, or vice versa. Let's look at these examples. There are two shops in the hotel, or the hotel has two shops. There are 5 different high schools in my town, or my town has got 5 different high schools. There's a swimming pool in my town has got a swimming pool. And we can also do it vice versa. My house has got 3 bathrooms. There are 3 bathrooms in my house. My house has got a garage. There's a garage in my house. My town has got a park. There's a park in my town. Spend time doing something can be substituted with take a person time to do something. For example, we spent 2 hours doing the shopping. Can be transformed into it took us 2 hours to do the shopping. We spent 1 hour practicing for the end of year concert. It took us 1 hour to practice for the end of year concert. We spent 2 hours cooking dinner. It took us 2 hours to cook dinner. We can then invert. It took me 4 hours to study history for the test. I spent 4 hours studying for the test. It took the boys 1 hour to complete their homework. They spent 1 hour completing their homework. It took the girls half an hour to put on their makeup. They spent half an hour putting on their makeup. Comparatives and superlatives can also be transformed in the following way. I've never eaten such a good pizza. You can use the superlative. This is the best pizza I've ever eaten. I've never read such an exciting story. This is the most exciting story I've ever read. I've never watched such a fantastic match. This is the most fantastic game I've ever watched. You can also transform the comparative There are more apples growing than last year, into there aren't as many apples as there were last year, or there aren't so many apples as there were last year. There are more chips in my bag than in yours. There aren't as many chips in my bag as there are in your bag, or there aren't so many chips in my bag as there are in your bag. The second book is longer than the first one. The first book isn't as long as the second one. Rome is more exciting than Frankfurt. Frankfurt isn't as exciting as Rome. The present perfect with for and since can be changed into the past simple with ago. I bought my mobile phone 6 months ago. I've had my mobile phone for 6 months. I bought my bike 1 month ago. I've had my bike for 1 month. I first met your mum 7 years ago. I've known your mum for 7 years. I started wearing glasses when I was little. I've worn glasses since I was little. I've known Jim for 2 years. I met Jim 2 years ago. I've known Pietro for 8 years. I met Pietro 8 years ago. You have to remember to change stative verbs like have and know into action verbs like buy and meet. Must, mustn't, have to, don't have to, need to, don't need to are interchangeable. This university lecture is optional. You don't have to go to this university lecture. You don't need to go to this university lecture. These lessons are compulsory. You have to attend these lessons or you must attend these lessons. It's forbidden to park here. You mustn't park here. Want is changed into would like. Would you like to play tennis? Do you want to play tennis? The active voice is changed into the passive voice, especially in academic sentences. Someone showed me the photo. I was shown the photo. The building was designed by Gaudí. Gaudí designed the building. So, and an adjective that is changed into to plus adjective. I was so concentrated that I didn't see it was raining. I was too concentrated to see it was raining. Have enough and a noun can sometimes be changed into afford. We didn't have enough time to study before the exam. We couldn't afford to waste time before the exam. We didn't have enough funding to carry out the tests. We couldn't afford to carry out the tests. In the second case, we're speaking about money. In the first case, we're speaking about time. If is often changed into unless. If you don't complete the course, you won't receive the credits. You won't receive the credits unless you complete the course. If the patient doesn't respond, he won't continue the therapy. He won't continue the therapy unless he responds. When is often changed to until. We left when the film ended. We didn't leave until the film ended. We stayed until the film ended. The lesson started when the teacher arrived. The lesson didn't start until the teacher arrived. The film finished when it was time for bed. The film didn't finish until it was time for bed. My friends didn't go home until midnight. My friends went home when it was midnight. The match ended when they scored a goal. The match didn't end until they scored a goal. Tom didn't leave until he got a job. Tom left home when he got a job. Much and many can be transformed into a few and a little. We didn't spend much time at the shops. We only spent a little time at the shops. They only had a few books on Munich. They didn't have many books on Munich. You didn't have much money, you only had a little money. They only had a few eggs in the fridge. They didn't have many eggs in the fridge. She didn't have much time to study. She only had a little time to study. I only have a few days holiday. I don't have many days holiday. Suggest doing something can often be transformed into why don't you, why don't we? They suggested going on a road trip. Jane said, why don't we go on a road trip? Peter suggested watching a horror film. Peter said, why don't we watch a horror film? Mum suggested playing in the garden. Mum said, why don't you play in the garden? Dad said, why don't you go out with your friends? Dad suggested going out with my friends. The kids said, why don't we have a pizza for dinner? The kids suggested having a pizza for dinner. Auntie said, why don't you help me hang the laundry? Auntie suggested helping her hang the laundry. Cost as a verb is often substituted with the noun price. How much does a new keyboard cost? What's the price of a new keyboard? So as you see, you can transform a sentence by substituting parts, and you have automatically rephrased the sentence. Let's look at an example sentence in a more scientific context. Research has shown that a glass of red wine a day can help your cardiovascular system. Rearranging the parts of the sentence, there are various possibilities. Research has shown that a glass of red wine a day can help your cardiovascular system. Your cardiovascular system can benefit from a glass of wine a day according to research. According to research, your cardiovascular system can benefit from a glass of red wine a day. A glass of red wine a day can be good for your cardiovascular system according to research. Then you need to substitute words with synonyms. Synonyms are words with similar meaning. Substitute some of the words with similar ones. For example, research has shown that a glass of red wine a day can help your cardiovascular system. Research has demonstrated that a glass of red wine a day is good for your heart. The last point is recording yourself. Now, you record yourself and listen to it because the more you practice rephrasing sentences, paraphrasing them, the more confident you'll become in doing so. And if you find yourself in a situation, particularly in business situations, at conferences, speaking to colleagues, you'll be able to be more confident because if you're not sure if you've understood something, you can rephrase it and have the confirmation that you said it correctly. So imagine you're in a situation where you have to speak to colleagues. To make sure you've understood a sentence, it's best to paraphrase it. While you're in the process of paraphrasing, you'll not only understand the phrase better and confirm that you've understood it correctly, but it'll also give your brain time to think how to respond. Let's summarize. Step 1, read or listen to the sentence carefully. Due to the COVID-19 virus, the organizers have cancelled the conference. Step 2, underline or focus on the content words. Due to the COVID-19 virus, the organizers have cancelled the conference. Due, COVID-19 virus, organizers, cancelled, and conference are the content words which have been stressed, spoken louder, and higher pitched. Step 3, change the sentence structure. Transform the sentence by changing the structure of the sentence. Due to the COVID-19 virus, the organizers have cancelled the conference. The conference has been cancelled due to the COVID-19 virus. The organizers have cancelled the conference due to the COVID-19 virus. Step 4, substitute words with synonyms. Synonyms are words with similar meanings. Substitute some of the words with similar ones. The organizers are not holding the conference due to the coronavirus. The conference won't be held due to the COVID-19 virus. Step 5, record yourself and listen to it looking for pronunciation mistakes. This way you'll become more confident. The more you do it, the more confident you'll become. Conclusion. This is a step-by-step method to summarize and repeat a sentence in your own words. So now it's time to regularly practice, focusing carefully on sentences you want to repeat for clarification purposes, focusing on the content words, changing the sentence structure, substituting words with synonyms, recording yourself, listening and making improvements if necessary. So what have you learnt from this lesson? You've learnt how to focus on content words to understand the meaning of the sentence and how to change the sentence structure and use synonyms to paraphrase the sentence. As I said earlier, pay attention means to concentrate on, and function words, which I mentioned earlier, are short, unstressed grammar words that don't have an individual meaning on their own outside of a sentence. Function words are usually pronouns, auxiliary verbs, prepositions, articles, conjunctions, and the verb to be is also a function word even when it's used as a main verb. Note that negative forms of auxiliary verbs do have stress. For example, didn't is stressed on the first syllable. So examples of pronouns are she, their, him. Auxiliary verbs have, do, will, can. Prepositions to do, for, in, on. Articles and determiners a, an, the, some.
Okay, as you can see, that was quite detailed, and it's not so easy to do this with sentences that have no context and no meaning to you. The best way to do this would actually be to take sentences that you think you will have to paraphrase in future. Let's imagine that you're in some kind of business context and you need to speak to colleagues. Perhaps you can think up some sentences, some questions that they would ask you, or some sentences that they would say to you, and you can try paraphrasing those. So choosing phrases, sentences that are pertinent to your real life, because it'll be that much easier. And especially if you're going to go to a conference and maybe speak at the conference, imagine sentences that people will say or questions that people will ask and try paraphrasing those, so that at the end you really feel confident that you can do so. It's really a question of practice, practice, practice. So that's the suggestion I give. Practice as much as possible in your own context. Why don't you write some sentences in the comments below that are pertinent to your context and paraphrase them? Let's see if you can do so as an exercise in written form, which will then help you do so in the spoken form. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when I next upload videos again, and see you in the next one. Bye!
There is and there are will be substituted with have, has, got. Spend time doing something will be substituted with take a person time to do something. Comparatives and superlatives will be substituted with phrases like such a to mean the best. The present perfect will be substituted with the past simple. Must, mustn't, have to, don't have to, need to, don't need to will be interchanged. Want to can be substituted with would like. So plus adjective that can be substituted with to and adjective. Have, enough, and a noun can be substituted with afford in certain contexts. If can be substituted with unless. When can be substituted with until. Much and many can be substituted with a few and a little. Suggest doing something can be substituted with why don't you, why don't we. And the verb cost can be substituted with the word with the noun price.